Good day, I am Sir Arnold and welcome to Inquiry, Investigation, and Immersion class where learning starts with a problem and ends with certain solutions. Today we will talk about brainstorming for research topic. But before that, we will identify what is inquiries, what is investigation, what is immersion, what is research study, and concept. So inquiry, it is a question which you can ask in order to get some information. It is the process of asking about or investigating something in order to find out more about it. While investigation, it is a proper inquiry or efficient study. Immersion, it is the process of learning a skill by using nothing else but that skill. It is the fact of becoming completely involved in something. Research is like exploring things to come up with the best idea to respond to the needs of the society. Concept, it is a conceptual representations, abstract objects, or abilities that make up the fundamental building blocks of thoughts and beliefs. So everything that we can hear right now is all about brainstorming for the research topic. So a natural inquiry, an inquiry is a method that has the aim of extending knowledge, undertaking doubt, or solving a problem. A theory of inquiry is an interpretation of the various types of inquiry and an action of the ways that each type of inquiry attains its aim. So in preparing for research, you have to first focus, decide on topic, understand the problem, and decide on the problem. So you don't have to, you're not going to make something else without focusing on what to do. So you have to focus on the specific topic that you're going to study. Decide on a topic that is um, you are comfortable to work on. Then understand the problem. So what's the problem? If it is dependable, or in understanding the problem, you have to group them into if it is dependable variables or independent variables. Then decide on the problem. So that's the cycle of preparing for research. So inquiry is an investigation, an act of asking information and seeking for truth and information by interrogation or questioning. Know better the issues in the society. Clearly define the issue at hand. Start breaking down the problem into components. Then jot down issues which is much important to answer. Steps of preparing research. Focus, decide on topic, understand the problem, decide on the problem. Then lastly, treat the problem by assessing your problems and developing your treatment plan. So that's all about the brainstorming for research topic. So now we will continue that in identifying the problem and asking the question. So after brainstorming for the research process, research topic, so we'll find out or we'll identify the problem and asking the questions. Background of the problem. After you have carefully written your previous activities and perhaps run it through your associates, though many of times, while there are many elements of your readers is the background of the study. The background of your study will provide context to the information discussed throughout the research process. The background information of your study may include both important and relevant studies. Furthermore, the background of the study will deliberate your statement of the problem, the rationale, and research questions. It links the introduction to your research study and guarantees a logical flow of ideas. Thus, it helps readers understand and comprehend your reasons and explanations for conducting the studies. So here is the sample of this study. So in grade 11, students' level of awareness on the 3 R's method in utilizing non-biodegradable waste in LaSalle University. So their sample background. In today's generation, a lot of problems have been emerging in our society, and the most common problem that humans are facing right now is about the environmental concerns, specifically the solid waste, which includes the biodegradable and non-biodegradable, which can be defined to be as those materials that are no longer needed at some point. Biodegradable wastes are those that can be easily decomposed, while non-biodegradable wastes are those that cannot be broken and decomposed, in which these will remain stable indefinitely. Moreover, non-biodegradable waste brings problem to our environment. So that's the sample of background of the study for the sample of background of the study. Now let's talk about conceptual framework. Researchers create and generate theoretical and conceptual frameworks that comprise a philosophical and methodological model to help and aid to design their work. A conceptual framework is an analytical tool with several variations in context that can be applied in different categories of work where an overall picture is needed in order to come up with the desired goal. It is necessary to make conceptual and theoretical distinctions and organize ideas. Strong and resilient conceptual frameworks capture and apprehend something real and do this in a way that is easy to remember and apply. The theoretical and conceptual frameworks provide evidence of academic standards and procedures that validate the authenticity of the study. They also propose an explanation and clarification of why the study is relevant and how the researcher expects to fill the gap in the literature. How to make a conceptual framework. As written by Maria Macher, a conceptual framework is a bit like a recipe or a blueprint. It provides an outline of how you plan to conduct the research of your thesis, but it goes further than that by also positioning your work within the larger field of research. A conduct of literature review. So, before you can have your own research, you need to understand and comprehend what research has already been conducted on your topic of interest and curiosity. Conducting a literature review can help you to refine your central argument or hypothesis. You must also conduct and gather the literature review to be able to place and organize your work within the larger and greater area of study in your conceptual framework. Your framework should present the relevant research and show how your work will help to advance the field. Next is create a flowchart. Conceptual frameworks are frequently visual in nature and allow those reading the framework to understand the course of your research. You can present this in whatever way makes the most sense for your work, which can include a flowchart, map, graph, or diagram. In every component of your research, you should showcase the variables that influence it. Then write a narrative. A conceptual framework then have to include a diagram or graphic. You can always present the same information and evidences by writing a narrative. Your narrative should recap the variables influencing your research and explore how they may change by hypothesis. The narrative should also explain and enlighten the basic methodology for your research. If you include a diagram in your conceptual framework, a narrative should also be included explaining these details for those who prefer more in-depth information. Bolded headers to separate the sections of your narrative and to create a visual order of information. Return and revise. As you begin your research, you may discover the certain elements of the conceptual framework no longer needed. You will discover new variables, or you may identify that your hypothesis is incorrect. You may discover additional research that challenges your own theory and ideas. You should return to your framework and revise it if necessary. So here is the example of schematic diagram. It shows the independent variables and dependent variables. In your independent variables should be the following should be found. Demographic profile of the respondents in terms of age, gender, grade level, occupation of the parents, monthly income of the parents, interactive method. While independent variables, it should be the academic achievements of purpose pupils recipients. So that is the difference between independent variable and dependent variables. Now, in research hypothesis, it is vital to all research hypothesis is vital to all research endeavors, whether qualitative or quantitative, exploratory or explanatory. In developing a testable research hypothesis takes skill, however, along with careful attention to how the proposed research method threats the development and testing of hypothesis. The hypothesis is in your study. You are predicting the relationship between two variables. Following are some hints for the formulation of your hypothesis. First is be certain to read on the subject matter to explain with it before making a final decision. As noted, a research hypothesis is more than just a topic. It has two elements or variables that are in relation to each other. Your hypothesis is what you propose to prove by your research. As an outcome of your research, you will arrive at a conclusion, a theory, or understanding that will be useful or applicable beyond the research itself. Number 3, avoid judgmental and critical words in your hypothesis. Number 4, your hypothesis must involve an issue or question that cannot be answered exclusively by the discipline of law. Number 5, be certain that each term your hypothesis is clearly understood and defined. Do not deal in generalities or assume that the reader knows the meaning of the technical term. Number 6, specify if appropriate whether you will be dealing with a state or federal law or both on a comparative basis if appropriate. Then number 7, know that your hypothesis may change over time as your research progresses. You may obtain the professor's approval of your hypothesis as well as any modifications to your hypothesis before proceeding with any work on the topic. Then we have presentation, written statement of the problem. Research studies generally include the succeeding interconnected portions. Purpose of the statement of the problem. So for example, Marshall and Roseman in 1995 explained clearly the purposes of the problem statement or inquiry, a research hypothesis. To describe the substantive focus of the research study, to frame it as a larger theoretical policy, a practical problem, and thereby develop its significance, to pose initial research questions, to forecast the literature to be discussed in the second section, and to discuss the limitation of the study. The next is the significance of the study. This portion discusses how to write the section and provides an example to illustrate the different techniques. In actual fact, the section on significance of the study provides information to the reader on how the study will contribute. It must be exactly stated, however, what the study will contribute and who will benefit from it. Sample significance of the study is the researcher believes that the result of the study will help the following: assist the purpose program and its effect to the performance of the pupils, and so on and so on. Then we have the scope and limitation of the study. As mentioned in other topics, the broad topics will lead the research nowhere. The scope and the limitation of the study sets border and limitations of the problem inquiry and narrows down the scope of the inquiry. Example, importance of the study number 1. This study should cover only those families in Barangay San Jose, Pasig City benefited by the government's Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. Number 2 question of the scope of the limitation. The study includes only those English freshman classes that use both blended learning and standard ways of language teaching. Then, in your definition of terms, it includes the glossary of research terms. This glossary is intended to assist you in understanding commonly used terms and concepts when reading, interpreting, and evaluating scholarly research in the social sciences. Types and functions. Conceptual definition refers to the dictionary meaning. Operational definition is the meaning of the concept or the terms as used in a particular study. So here's the sample, just read it in your eyes. So that ends my discussion altogether. Let's acquire knowledge of investigation and emerging ourselves to positive people with positive thoughts and vibes. Thank you and goodbye.